The first sound is not a voice, but stone cracking in silence. Deep beneath Camelot's crypts, a forgotten archway breathes out its centuries of decay, the stench of damp earth mingling with the bitter smoke of charred incense long extinguished. Shadows writhe upon the ruined walls as though serpents awaken within them, and at their threshold stands Merlin. His hand trembles upon a lantern of starfire, its flame fluttering in rhythm with his own unsteady breath. Behind him, Gaius whispers, his words low and weighted like chains. This is the passage to the Serpent's tomb, a place sealed by kings who feared what could not be slain. His warning lingers, pressing into Merlin's mind, but the crystal in his satchel pulses defiantly, a caged heart demanding to be heard. It whispers of destinies older than prophecy, of bindings woven in darkness before men ever named Camelot. Above them, bells toll from the citadel, each strike of iron clashing with a distant murmur of druids chanting in the hills. The air itself seems restless, stirred by omens. At the gates, Morgana lingers, her shadow-weave cloak trailing frost across the stones, her eyes burning with hunger sharpened by fate. She does not move closer, yet she waits, like a wolf scenting wounded prey. Arthur, restless in his armor, paces near the stair. Torchlight glints across the moonsteel at his hip as he demands, "What lies beyond?" But Merlin cannot bear to speak the truth. He cloaks his vision in half-veiled words, for he has seen coils as vast as walls, venom that could drown armies, and Morgana crowned upon ruin. His silence breeds tension, and Arthur's anger sparks against it, though he does not yet know why. Then a raven cuts the sky above the spire. Its cry splits the silence, echoing down the crypt as if to mark the moment. Merlin lays his palm upon the arch. The runes carved into its stone flare alive, twisting into serpentine scales of light that ripple and shimmer, a living skin awakening after centuries of sleep. The stone shudders beneath his hand. A hiss rises from the depths, low and dreadful, curling across the skin like cold breath upon the neck. The lantern flares once, flooding the chamber in ghostlight, then gutters and dies as though consumed. Darkness falls heavy and absolute, swallowing Merlin whole. The air thickens with the scent of scales long hidden, of soil disturbed where no hand should have reached. In that silence comes a promise, as ancient as the tomb itself. No soul who touches this place will leave unchanged. Rain lashes against the battlements, each drop a whispered curse striking stone, as if the heavens themselves conspire against Camelot. In the war hall, firelight writhes upon ancient banners, their fabric groaning as though straining to tear free from the walls. Arthur stands at the map table, his moon-steel blade laid across the kingdoms of parchment, the edge humming with an unearthly defiance. The storm outside echoes within his chest, rage and resolve hammering louder than the thunder. Gwen's voice rises through the clash of rain and fire. Her hands tremble against the iron rail, yet her plea is steady. Wait. The storm is no common storm. Something dark stirs beneath it. Her eyes shine with fear and love entwined, the warmth of hearthfire burning even in the shadow of dread. Arthur's gaze falters, softening for a breath, but his jaw tightens again. "If I yield to silence, Camelot falls not by Fong but by doubt," he answers, his tone resolute, though the words carve guilt into his heart. Gaius leans close to the flame, his voice a rasp of foreboding. "Omens gather, sire. Crows blacken the towers. Rivers carry ash. Children's shadows vanish from mirrors. The serpent's breath thickens the air." His words hang heavy, the air itself tasting of smoke and iron. Merlin lingers apart, shrouded in silence, yet the weight of the tomb presses through his very bones. The sigil seared upon his palm burns hotter, pulsing in rhythm with the hiss he alone can hear. His eyes blur with visions, scales vast as walls coiling around towers, venom spilling like rivers through streets, and Morgana's smile, sharpened with hunger for the crown. She watches unseen from the threshold, her breath frosting in the gloom, her laughter faint and brittle, like glass fracturing in the dark. Arthur's fury erupts. His gauntlet slams upon the oak table, the blow sending maps fluttering like frightened birds. "Destiny bends to no beast," he roars. "Crown and kingdom shall not bow to fangs or prophecy. If the tomb stirs, it will find me waiting with steel." His words burn with defiance, yet with each syllable the sigil on Merlin's hand sears deeper, as though the relic itself screams warning. Lightning cleaves the sky outside, thunder answering with a crack of worlds splitting apart. The great hall trembles, goblets rattling, torches spitting sparks. And in the distance, the blood-red moon breaks through the storm clouds, staining Camelot's spire like a wound. The war table shudders, maps trembling with unseen breath. Arthur's knights exchange wary glances, but none dare speak. Beneath their feet, the earth groans. From the deep, the sound rises, scales grinding against stone, slow and ancient, the slumber of centuries broken. A hiss coils upward through the foundations, curling like smoke into the roots of the castle, tasting the air of freedom once more. Merlin closes his eyes, feeling the serpent's breath whisper against his soul. His silence weighs heavier than Arthur's vow, for he knows no blade forged by mortal hand can halt what stirs below. The storm is no longer outside, it has entered Camelot, breathing through its very bones. The forest breathes as though alive, every branch heavy with whispers that seem older than kingdoms. Mist winds between the trees, weaving silver veils that glimmer in the lanterns of starfire swaying from skeletal boughs. Their light spills across bark carved with runes, lines so deep they bleed faintly as if the trees themselves are wounded by prophecy. The air smells of damp moss and iron soil, sweetened faintly by night-blooming flowers, but beneath it lingers dread, sharp and metallic, like the tang of blood before battle. Merlin walks the hidden path, his cloak dragging across roots that pulse faintly with unseen power. The crystal burns in his satchel, its heartbeat quickening as though answering the hiss that coils unseen beneath the earth. Shadows stir along the periphery, beasts with eyes like molten embers, claws raking furrows in the soil, their gaze fixed upon the branded mark upon Merlin's palm. Yet they do not strike, for something deeper holds them in thrall, some echo of the serpent's awakening that summons all creatures to witness. The chanting rises first as a murmur, then as hollow wind through ancient stone. From the mist step the druids, cloaked in ash and constellations, their faces painted in the silence of prophecy. They kneel, but not to Merlin. Their foreheads bow toward the sigil seared upon his flesh. One voice, hoarse as dry leaves, whispers, "Keeper of time, cursed to bear the serpent's awakening." Merlin's breath catches, his hand trembling as he draws it against his chest. "I am no keeper," he mutters, but the words feel thin, devoured by the night. The druids speak in trembling cadence, voices overlapping like a river of omens. They speak of Morgana, who woos the storm as ally and waits to crown herself in ash. They speak of Arthur, whose throne is a fragile stone set before waves that cannot be stopped. Then, as though fearing their own prophecy, they press into Merlin's hand a relic, a shard of obsidian etched with tongues long forgotten, its edge cutting the skin as though eager to taste blood. "Every choice bleeds into the tomb," they whisper, eyes glistening with dread. "Every path takes its toll." The words echo like tolling bells, heavy, unrelenting. A crow feather drifts from the canopy, falling onto Merlin's branded hand. Black against the glow, it seals the omen, a mark too stark to deny. The crystal flares in his satchel, and visions surge through him like a flood he cannot resist. Arthur's blade lies shattered across a battlefield drowned in ash. Morgana walks unscathed through flame, her shadow unfurling like wings. Camelot's spires coil with serpents, crowns dissolving into dust, oaths breaking into silence. Merlin gasps awake from the vision, his chest heaving, the shard of obsidian searing into his palm as if it brands him anew. The forest, once alive with chant and presence, collapses into sudden silence. The beasts are gone, the druids vanished, the mist fallen still. Only the hiss remains, coiling through the roots beneath him, the sound of prophecy unfulfilled, waiting, patient as the serpent itself. The dungeons groan beneath Camelot like a slumbering beast, their stones slick with age, their arches sweating with centuries of despair. Water drips from the ceiling in endless rhythm, each drop a hollow toll counting down into silence. The sound swells like a heartbeat in the gloom as Morgana's steps echo, her torch bending toward her shadowed form, as though the flame itself bowed in obedience. Frost trails behind her, ribbons of ice curling over the walls, transforming damp moss into crystal serpents that writhe at her passing. She halts before the hidden chamber, where blood runes shimmer faintly upon the arch. The carvings writhe like living serpents, scales shifting as though eager to taste her touch. Her lips curve in hunger as she whispers the forbidden tongue, syllables weighted with venom, the language of sorcerers who had once courted chaos and been devoured by it. The air grows sharp, metallic, every breath like swallowing shards of winter. Far above, in the solitude of his chamber, Merlin doubles over. The crystal writhes in his grasp, its light shuddering like a caged animal hearing its master's call. His veins burn with its song, visions clawing at the edges of his mind, scales grinding against stone, rivers running black, Morgana's laughter carving through the marrow of the world. He gasps, whispering, "Not yet, not yet," as though words could tether destiny. Below, another light stirs the shadows. Gwen, her lantern trembling in her hands, descends the labyrinth stair by stair. Her loyalty drives her deeper than her fear, though her breath quivers with every step. The lantern's glow kisses forgotten relics, rusted chains dangling like broken promises, crowns discarded and half devoured by stone, relics of rulers whose reigns had dissolved into dust. And there, before the runes, she beholds Morgana. The sight roots her where she stands. Morgana's shadow stretches vast and dreadful, flame painting her as more spirit than flesh. Gwen forces her voice forward, though it quavers like a bowstring straining near the snap. "You cannot claim it." Morgana turns, eyes gleaming with cruel amusement, her smile colder than steel drawn in winter. "Arthur's love blinds you. Thrones are nothing but scales waiting to be shed. And I will wear what rises from beneath." Gwen lifts her lantern higher, as though love itself could be forged into a weapon. The flame strikes the runes, and brilliance explodes across the chamber. The stone convulses, screaming through its own bones. Light weaves into vision, tearing through walls of reality. Camelot, drowned in ash, spires collapsing beneath coils of shadow, Arthur's crown unraveling into smoke that the wind devours without mercy. Morgana's laughter slices the vision in two. She extinguishes her torch with a single breath, plunging the chamber into a darkness thicker than death. The only light is Gwen's faltering lantern, its glow choking under the weight of shadow. The dripping water deepens, echoing like a serpent's hiss, long and patient, threading through every crack in the stone. Gwen clutches her light close, knuckles white, her heartbeat loud against the silence. Around her, the shadows stir, pressing in, alive, hungry. Not emptiness, but presence. The tomb breathes with them, waiting to claim another witness. And above, Merlin feels the final tremor in his bones, the certainty that the serpent no longer sleeps. Dawn bleeds across the ramparts, a wound torn open across the sky, its crimson veins swallowed by storm clouds that coil like serpents above the horizon. The first light does not bring hope but dread, painting Camelot in shades of rust and ash. Within the king's chamber, Arthur fastens his armor, each clasp resounding like the toll of a war drum. The scent of oiled steel, the weight of moon-forged plates, the cold bite of leather against skin, These are the trappings of duty, yet behind his eyes flickers the flame of doubt. His breath clouds in the chill air as he steels himself for the day the prophecies had promised would come. Gaius hovers near, his voice a rasping plea. Majesty, the crystal is no weapon of men. Its curse binds to whomever defies its path. Caution. Arthur cuts him off with a glance sharp as his blade. Caution has no place upon the battlefield. I will not yield Camelot's fate to whispers and shadows. In the great hall the banners strain, snapping like wings against unseen hands, as though the castle itself sought to flee what approaches. Merlin lingers apart, cloaked in shadow, his gaze hollow, every step heavy with the burden of visions he cannot name. The sigil carved into his palm burns whenever Arthur nears, a wound that cries out in warning, yet the words wither on his tongue. At the foot of the steps Gwen clasps Arthur's hand, her fingers cold as stone though her eyes burn with desperate love. "The storm asks too much," she whispers, voice frayed with sorrow. Arthur's reply is quiet, but forged of iron. "Then I will give more." Beyond the walls, horns sound across the valley, their mournful call mingling with the harsh corps of ravens wheeling above, black silhouettes against the bloodied dawn. From a high tower Morgana watches, her shadow-weave cloak unfurling like wings, her lips curved in cruel anticipation. She tastes the storm as one might taste victory, her breath frosting the air with each hungry exhale. The knights gather in the courtyard, shields polished until they gleam like mirrors, torchlight splintering across their surfaces into fractured images, some noble, some monstrous, as though the fire itself revealed the masks of men. Boots grind against the frozen earth, the clatter of armor rising into a dirge that matches the restless thunder overhead. Merlin grips the crystal of time, its hum tearing at his soul. In its fractured light, he sees paths uncoiling into ruin, Arthur broken upon a crown of ash, Morgana rising unscathed through fire, Camelot's towers strangled by coils older than memory. Yet still he walks behind his king, silent, for silence is all his loyalty can manage. To speak would destroy what remains of hope. To withhold may destroy everything else. The gates groan as they open, ancient timbers straining like the bones of the earth itself. The storm roars forward to meet them, swallowing torchlight and voice alike. Within its thunder hides a hiss, low, endless, curling through marrow, older than words. Far below, deep in the roots of the world, scales grind against stone. The serpent shifts, no longer dreaming. Its breath slithers upward, threading through the cracks of Camelot, promising that the hour of waking has come. And though Arthur strides first into the tempest, it is Merlin who feels the world tremble, for he alone knows the storm is not sky-born but tomb-born. The battlefield smoulders beneath a sky torn open by storm, the air thick with smoke and the stench of blood. Rain falls in furious torrents, hissing as it strikes blackened soil, shattered spears, and the broken armor of the fallen. The clash of steel that once rang across the valley dwindles into hollow echoes, leaving only the raw breath of survivors and the cries of carrion crows circling overhead. Amid the ruin, Arthur and Morgana stand locked in silence, two figures carved by fate, their shadows trembling in the firelit rain. Her eyes gleam like polished obsidian, fathomless and cruel. Her voice drips venom, each word a wound. "This is the curse of queens betrayed," she whispers, raising her hand to summon coils of darkness that writhe like living serpents in the stormlight. Arthur lifts his moon-steel blade in answer, its edge glowing faintly, a song of defiance against the night. Yet his resolve falters when Gwen's cry pierces the chaos. She kneels in the distance, bent over the fallen, her sobs carried through the wind like fragile bells of grief. At the edge of the field stands Merlin, the crystal thrumming in his grasp, its heartbeat louder than the storm. Threads of time unravel before his eyes, each vision a blade cutting deeper. Morgana enthroned upon ashes, Arthur's body swallowed by shadows, Camelot reduced to whispers beneath the wind. The sigil upon his palm sears into his marrow, his flesh a conduit for fate's cruelty. Thunder splits the heavens with a crack of bone, and iron blood taints his tongue as if the very world bleeds through him. The relic speaks without words, demanding its toll. He must choose, to shatter the crystal, sundering destiny itself, or preserve its weave and forsake all he holds dear. His breath trembles, his soul divided. The storm pauses, as if creation itself leans close to hear his answer. Merlin! Arthur's shout cuts through the gale, voice torn between command and desperation. Gwen pleads through her grief, her hands red with loss, her eyes begging for mercy no crown can grant. And from the heart of ruin, Morgana's laughter rises, hollow and triumphant, a dirge woven from centuries of hate. Merlin's grip tightens around the relic. He lifts it high, and the crystal blazes with fractured brilliance, casting its light into pools of rain. The pools become mirrors, each one a shard of future undone. Arthur dead in a dozen ways, Camelot drowned beneath serpents, Morgana rising unscathed in every path. No vision offers salvation. His eyes close. The world stills. Even the storm holds its breath. For one heartbeat, there is no rain, no wind, no cry of crow or clash of steel, only silence. And in that silence, the fracture comes. A scream without sound, a tear across the fabric of time itself. Light rips outward in jagged arcs, carving through the storm like lightning that refuses to fade. The earth shudders, the air implodes, and the battlefield bends beneath forces older than the gods. From Camelot's towers, ravens burst into the sky, circling a hollow heaven, their wings black against a world unraveling. They wheel and cry, as though bearing witness that destiny has reached its breaking point, and that nothing, not even Merlin's love or Arthur's crown, will escape what has been unmade.